What is going on, Silver Squad, and welcome back to another episode of the Silver Site. My name is RJ,
My name's Cody Banks. Nice to be with y'all.
and today we're going to be reviewing Fear Street, which is now streaming on the Netflix platform. We're going to kind of do this, three-part trilogy in one video. So we will be reviewing Fear Street Part 1, 1994, 1978, and 1666. So without further ado, let's jump into it. But before we do, make sure you like this video, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and hit the notification bell so that we stay up to date on all of our content. So let's get into it now. Overall, what did you think of the Fear Street trilogy? Because I know you're a Goosebumps fan. I know you're R.L. Stein fan. I know you're a horror fan. So what did you think about Fear Street overall?
Overall, I loved it. I went in expecting Goosebumps and, just knowing the Goosebump books, reading the Fear Street books. And once they made the adaptation of the Goosebumps movie, the first one and the second one, I really liked it. So I had mid expectations for the Fear Street. I didn't know what to expect, but I was expecting something in the same realm, and I was not disappointed at all. It really exceeded my expectations, especially when I found out it was rated R. I was like, why is it rated R, to be Fear Street? And I think we both know, just kind of watching the trilogy of just what it was about, some of the scenes that we'll talk about, why it was rated R. But I was super pleased with every film. There wasn't a film out the trilogy that I didn't like. But what about you?
Yeah, I enjoy Fear Street. I liked 1, 2, and 3. I enjoyed 3 more because you know how I feel about like old timey like witchcraft. And so for me, that was kind of like where my heart lied, and I was kind of more into the story then when they were trying to deal with like the origins of the witchcraft. I like the fact that Fear Street was rated R because we did get a little bit more. At this, Fear Street was what I expected from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Yeah,
If that makes sense. I thought it was going to be a little bit more, I guess, R-rated. But Fear Street definitely did a better job, in my opinion, of bringing the heat or bringing like the kind of like gore that I wanted to see in Scary Stories. Out of the 3 trilogies, I know was my favorite. What was your favorite?
Yeah, I think we should rank them. So if you said number 3 is your favorite, I would. This is how I would rank them. I would go 2, 3, and then 1.
Okay, I will go 3, 1, then 2.
Oh,
yeah, 2 is my least favorite. Just because I don't like the 70s at all. Like I hate the 70s, I hate the 80s. So for me, it was kind of not a chore to get through, but I found myself more distracted on 2 than I did on the first one. Then I did on the last one. So that's kind of why I ranked them that way. Overall, so basically, if you're not familiar with the series, of which I probably could have started out with this, the plot is after a series of brutal slayings, a teen and her friends take on an evil force that's plagued their notorious town for centuries. It was very tropey, but I liked it. I was digging it. Two sides of the tracks, kind of living opposite lives, and just trying to not die. Everybody's fucking dying. Like every I don't know. I felt an impending sense of doom around the corner for everybody. There was not a second where I watched think somebody was gonna get murdered brutally.
Yeah, and I think the second one, like the first one, and I know we'll kind of get into it. The first one, I was like, wow. But the second one, once they were at the camp and Thomas, got outside of like the tunnel and started like aiming for the kids and stuff, I was like, nobody's safe at this point.
Yeah.
Everyone is a victim.
Yeah.
And I really liked it, and I knew you would like it, especially once they started getting into like the dark magic, aspect and stuff. Because at first I was expecting like Sarah Fair, the witch, and then once it started kind of going into what was really going on to wrap up the series, I was like, Reggie's gonna like this.
Yeah.
But the second one, I rank it first because I am very fond of the 80s and stuff, and so I was initially worried about like with it being the 78, and I do like stuff from the 70s, but I felt like it was really well done for like the 80s, and then just the action scenes in it. And I love kind of what you said, like tropes and like those 80s slasher films that typically dealt with like summer camps, like Sleepaway Camp or your Friday
Yeah.
the 13th type of movies and things like that.
Yeah.
Really kind of had a special place in my heart. But man, Tom, out of all the killers out the whole series, I think Thomas was definitely one of the ones that you had to be worried about. He had kind of like this like limp walk, but he was like fast, like when he was walking.
Yeah.
Had that accent.
It's like, why are you so fast?
Yeah,
Fast you're running.
exactly. And typically we see movies where like killers are fast, but they might be walking and just pop up somewhere. Like you're going to see Thomas the whole way, and he's coming.
You can hear him running until you heard his footsteps, like doom, 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 doom.
Mm-hmm.
I think he probably would be the killer that would have gotten me out of everybody else. Speaking of like the killers, what was your favorite kill in the series?
Oh man, so the bread cutter scene, with Kate, that was one that hurt me a little bit. For a second, I looked down. I knew they were fighting, like her and Ryan Torres, which was the skull mask killer.
Yeah.
I knew they were fighting. I looked down, I look up, and next thing you know, like I was like, I didn't know what to think. So that was definitely a memorable one. But I would say my favorite one, it would probably be where in the second one, when they were in the cave and the curly-headed kid with his girlfriend, they were actually in there, and I believe he was the first one to die at Thomas's hands, where he got hit in the face. He was like, "Yeah, Thomas, what are you doing?" And then,
yeah.
And I was very like shocked that typically when you see those type of things, like it might go off camera, but I like the visual effects. It looked like there's some this kind of like aesthetic to it where it looked kind of real. Like I felt like the effects were really good with that one, and to me that set the tone for the second one, that he was going to be super aggressive, and that whoever he was about to come in contact with, that they were in for a pretty bad fate. What about you? What was some of the most like memorable kills?
My favorite kill, of course, was Kate, but secondary to that, I have to say my favorite kill was when they were in the bathroom stall, and I guess Thomas, right, when he took the axe and he swung the old boy's head fell off. Yeah, and then he fell into the hole. Yeah, like it was funny. It was funny.
Not to mention, old girl's leg was already broke. And it was kind of like a double whammy because he fell on her broken leg, and then there was just a dead body on top of you. So yeah, that was a pretty crazy one. I just have to say it with Gary, the kill that you're referencing too. His head was looking, I don't know, his head always kind of distracted me a little bit. He was in the Halloween movie, and I felt like the directors was like, let's all film a little faster than anybody else.
Was there anything in the movie that you thought could have been improved on, or anything that you liked, or anything you saw that you didn't care for too much?
Yeah, so I guess we'll start off with like the first one. So the first one overall was good. I felt like it did a good job just kind of establishing the story, and kind of what we see in other movies where you need that first film to kind of lay out everything for you. And then as you kind of progress, that's where some of the more like the plot gets thicker. I think overall what could have been better, and we spoke about it a little bit earlier, is obviously the accents in 1666 could have been a little bit better. I don't really have too much complaints about any of the killing scenes, because even with the second one, they kind of respected like the children that were being targeted, where you didn't really see
I don't want to see no kids out here.
Yeah, so I felt like they did a good job there. Man, even with some of the flaws of the movie, I still feel like it was an overall like great movie. But I really just enjoyed it, man. There's not too many things I can nitpick about it. With the expectations that I had for the movie, that could be overall better outside maybe the accents of 1666 before a Fair Street film. I really liked it. I did feel like they were kind of lengthy.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, cause I think.
You're right. Because there was a point where I was like, all right, how much?
Yeah. And I was watching it with my sister earlier, because she didn't see the second or the third one, and we were into the second one, and she was enjoying it. And she was like, "How much longer does this movie have?" And I was like, "It was like probably like 40 minutes." And she was like, "I don't know, because the first one was really long." But for me, just being a horror fan, being a Goosebumps, a Fear Street, R.L. Stein fan, I loved every minute of it. But I can't say that I wasn't like, dang, like this movie's a little long.
It was definitely long. Yeah.
But outside that, man, I really enjoyed it. I definitely feel like it has a lot of rewatch value, with it as well. What about you? What were some of the points that you felt like could have been different?
I think they did a really good job of laying the world out in the first movie. My only problem with the first movie, and we talked about this, was the stupidity of the character. And I get that you have to be stupid to drive the plot in a horror movie. At the same time, though, I feel like there's got to be a better way to write them into situations that feels organic. Because there was that point where I got really frustrated and I was like, yo, I don't know if I want to watch this. Because it's something where I feel like they're doing things that are just being stupid for the sake of being stupid. But I'm glad I did stick with it because it did get better in those decisions. They stopped making poor decisions later on as it went on. But other than that, I think that's the only kind of nitpick that I do have, besides the accents that were going in and out, or the accents that did something they were from the same area or whatever. But other than that, I definitely enjoyed Fear Street. The one thing I didn't like about the ending was, once again, when, like, spoilers, once everything kind of leveled out at the end and they finished everything they were supposed to finish, when they left the book. And I get it, it's horrible. Like, come on, that after all you've been through, you couldn't think to get the book. So it just kind of, that point just kind of irritated me. But I feel like that's kind of what horror's supposed to do. It's supposed to be like, no, and you always want to do a crack, for a sequel. Even though from what I've read, Netflix doesn't have a plan to have a sequel. But I think that's the only kind of nitpicky thing I had problem with it.
Yeah, and with the book, I felt like the same thing as well, that someone should have grabbed the book, But where do you think like the series could go? Let's say, do you think they should? So, with the book still being there at the end and somebody grabbing it, where do you think the series could go? Do you feel like, would it be beneficial for Fear Street to maybe put out more movies in the future, like maybe another like 3-part series every summer? Do you feel like it'd be better as an anthology series, maybe like 30-minute episodes, kind of what we're used to with the Goosebumps series and stuff? Because there's so many books, so many different things they can play off with Sunnyvale or Shady Side, and characters that they could maybe explore a little bit more in depth outside of Sarah Fair and maybe even Nick Good, the sheriff, and what he was doing. Where do you feel like the series goes, or what would be best for it?
I feel like they did such a good job of laying the world out that anything is possible as far as a possible sequel is concerned. However, I'm satisfied with the conclusion. I don't think they should do more, because I feel like too much of a good thing can turn something sour. It can turn something from a franchise to a joke real quick. And I feel like they did such a near perfect job of creating this world, telling a story, and doing it in a way where they closed the door yet left it cracked and open for a possible sequel. You're always supposed to wonder about a horror movie after it's over. And I feel like leave us wondering. Don't try to answer the questions. Don't try to come back with something else, because we're satisfied. You did a good job. Like, leave it where it's at. Now, a miniseries may be possibly centered around the other killings, but we kind of got to see everything. So I don't know, unless they come up with, another town, another curse. I don't know if I want to see this particular story continue, only because I felt like they did a good job of closing the book. What about you?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. As much as I would love, a continuation of Fear Street series and everything like that, I do feel like this was good, where like it's kind of like the Goonies. I love the Goonies, but does it need to be a Goonies Part 2? Even though I love the first one, probably not. It may not, live up to my expectations or anything like that. So, as much as I would be interested in it, I do agree with your point. If there was hypothetically going to be, let's say, if Fear Street revolved a specific killer that you've seen in the first 3, which one would you want to see them explore more? That's not the Skull Mask killer. That's not Thomas Slater in the first one, or really
the little boy.
The little boy with the baseball bat.
Yeah, that's what I want to know, because that kind of creeped me out the most when he had the bat. He was just like, going to town or whatever. I want to see how that kind of took place. So that probably be the most interesting for me. What about you?
The one that freaked me out the most was like he looked like a gardener and his face was messed up. And in
Yeah.
part two, he was the one stabbing Ziggy, at the end. I don't know, he just creeped me out. Because like he would stab you like once,
Yeah.
he would fall, and he just
Yeah.
just go in.
Yeah.
Man, so let's actually kind of get into the first one now. With the first one, I love the opening scene. I thought it was great. I felt like the mall scene, and we had the Scoops Ahoy character from Stranger Things, and then, I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
But with the first one specifically, if you were facing the Skull Mask Killer, what would be some of the things that you would do to try to like fight that?
I would have closed the gate after I, got out. I just didn't, like I said, the decisions behind that, none of that made sense. When there were several times where they hit the killer was down, and then they ran. Like, I was just like, what? Why are you? But it's trophy. You're supposed to. Yeah.
But one thing though that I feel like kind of helps the series is, remember in the second one, Ziggy's sister took the shovel and kind of decapitated Thomas, and like really just ended him. And then 5 minutes later he was back. So it was like there was really no killing him. It was just the curse really was the best way to avoid a lot of them and stuff. I'm gonna tell you what my favorite part out the entire series was. In part two, after she did that, right? Ruby Lane comes out of from what was it, like kind of like the stall or the bathroom, and then you see like the boy crawl out. You see I was like, oh, they're done. I was like, there's just no way.
Yeah, like that's it.
And
that's done.
Were you surprised any with the second one, where we really found out who Ziggy was, and Ziggy was kind of the redhead sister and not the other sister?
They didn't say, like, the whole time I was watching, I think he did it on purpose to kind of make us kind of see which one was going to live, because I was like, oh, okay, what's this sister? Oh, no, it's this sister. Oh, no, it's this sister. So I was going back and forth. And then when they brought the girl back to life, I said, oh, okay, that makes sense. So I like the fact that they kind of kept us in the dark, and I think that kind of speaks to how good this series is as far as like the overall storytelling, is that they always try to make everything count. They make everything intentional. I feel like that's the mark of a good horror movie. There are people that didn't like this. I don't understand why. I feel like people who didn't like this series are being a little nitpicky, because for me, as someone who, because I watch horror, but I me, I'm quick to pull up Wikipedia and look at the plot, because I don't like to see people die and I don't know if they're about to die. But for me, I didn't want to do that because I was enjoying the story so much that I didn't want to ruin it. The whole aspect of the hand and finding the body and trying to mentally put everything together, to me, it just like, I remember when it clicked that the reason that they couldn't find the body when they were digging up the trees, because that wasn't where the body was buried, and then they had moved it. I was like, yo, that is awesome storytelling, because no matter how much they would have dug, they would have never got it.
Man, I felt kind of what you're saying, that impending sense of doom. Once again, on the second one, where Ziggy and her sister were at the tree, and like, what does this mean? What does this mean? Or the sister's like, I don't know. Like, all the killers are like rushing them, and then the sister takes the shovel and tries to find Thomas from hitting the sister. And I really didn't know what to expect in that scene, because both of them looked like they were about to die. You had the sister getting chopped in the chest with the axe, and you had the other one stabbed. So that really kind of threw me for a loop. So if you had to pick any character that could have survived, who would it have been?
Kate. Easily. Kate. I didn't want her to die. I don't know, something about her. I gravitated towards her. I liked her character. I liked the fact that she was willing to throw Sam to the wolves. Like, stay after her. Throw her.
Take her out.
Like, I was like, hey, I'm down. I like it. I'm with it. But she had the worst death to me or whatever. I didn't want her to die at all. But definitely my favorite character overall. What about you?
My favorite character overall.
Who would you save?
Oh, I would say Ziggy's sister. You know,
Yeah,
I wish she wouldn't have died. You know, just because she was somebody at camp trying to
yeah,
work as a counselor to not
yes,
only pay for her fresh little polo shirt, to help their mom out, to really protect over her sister and pay for college, and
yeah,
she was doing all the right things. You even heard other characters reference to her like, "Hey, you used to be different." It sounded like she used to be a little bit more like irresponsible, a little bit more risky, and things like that. And to see somebody do all the right things, and then really like try to protect like their loved ones, and see them fall at the end, I was like, no, it was like it
yeah.
should be like, take me.
It's crazy. Like when she first came on screen, like because you try to gauge like, damn, I wonder how they're gonna die. Like when we learned that she was a Goody Two Shoes character, I was like, damn, her death is gonna be really sad, and it was. One thing I liked, I love the exploration of the cave. I love how that cave ran so deep and ran through the town. I enjoyed the book, looking through the book and trying to figure things out little by little. I enjoyed the puzzle that was written for them to figure out, for them to put together. I think that probably was what drew me into the story the most. Once I realized that there was a puzzle and a mystery to be solved, and it's centered around witchcraft, I was sold.
Were you any surprised or happy that they did reveal who the Queen of Darkness was, who Josh was online chatting with?
Did I miss that?
So at the very end of the third one, Josh has his broken arm, and he's
Yeah.
talking to the janitor because he's trying to sell his little compound
Uh,
player, and she like wrote on his cast and was like, "Hey, if you ever want to chat sometime."
oh, I missed that. I saw the act and I was like, I didn't pay attention to it. Oh, okay, that's dope. Long, long-term storytelling, mind blown.
You
Okay,
know,
okay,
I
yeah,
I watched the first one and I was in my head like, who is the Queen of Darkness? Because
yeah,
Josh was so engaged, and that was another person who
yeah,
seemed like they knew everything that was going on with
yeah,
Side and the Killers and the Curse of Sarah Fair.
yeah.
So I thought that was a nice little Easter egg at the end of it. Another little fun fact: Camp Nightwing is in actually one of the Fair Street books, and if you try to find that book now, it's like $70 or $80. Like, the price of that book has drastically went up
Yeah.
as soon as people found out that Camp Nightwing was in one of the Fair Street books. So
Oh
that is
wow.
definitely on my radar to get that book. It's
Yeah.
$78. I don't know, but you know,
I mean,
man,
it's a nice little treat,
it's
Nice
a nice
little
little
treat.
treat.
Put it in the frame, hang it up, put it on your wall.
Boy, it's going to have to be in mint condition.
Right?
Um,
Hot off the press.
Man, what else I also kind of disliked about the series as well, I feel like you did a good point. When you think about Goosebumps and scary stories that tell in the dark, this is where Fear Street falls at.
Yeah.
There's a lot of better horror movies that we've seen recently, and just to name a few, let's just say Halloween, Quiet Place 2, Hereditary, Midsummer. It's not that in the type of the horror genre that it's in. So if you do try to compare it to, let's say The Shining, or some of the other like Psycho or anything like that, I feel like you are going to be more nitpicky towards the film series. But like I said, with Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, with the Goosebumps film, with the Fear Street film, like those are like great films, especially for us growing up and knowing kind of like those stories and how they made us feel back in the day. I feel like that really brought the nostalgia back to us and stuff. So I felt like it was really well, and we talked about it too. There's people that's talking about, oh yeah, Calibri font wasn't existed in 1994. I'm not concerned about that.
I'm not checking for that. I'm not checking for that shit, like, at all. I want a good story. I want to be scared. I want a good movie. That's it.
The plot, that being a plot hole for me doesn't, nothing.
It didn't take me out. I feel like people need to realize that things that you critique are things that take you out of the movie. If it didn't take you out of the movie, then it's not worth critiquing. And I felt like the only thing that took me out of the movie was the accent. Like, there were times where I was like, did she forget she's supposed to be an accent? But other than that, nothing else took me out of the movie, really.
I agree. Now, let me tell you what character I think you would be. I would definitely feel like it would be the janitor, because when Josh and them pulled up and they're like, hey, you want to kill Sheriff Good? He's like, let me get my coat.
Yeah,
And then he got to the,
yeah,
he got to the mall. He's like, let me tell you about these gates. Super secure, easy access. We can do all
yeah,
this stuff. I was like, great. I was like, Reggie would be pretty, agile to,
yeah.
think about some of this
I'm
stuff.
down. Like let's think about this long and see how we're gonna get.
Yeah.
Let's think it out. Well, now that you mentioned it, before we do give our final thoughts, let's talk about this mall scene and how great it was. It was like a little bit of Home Alone, a little bit. It was a classic final battle, but it was a smart final battle. One thing I wish they would have. One thing I wish that, or I thought was going to happen, is that they were just going to let the killers keep waking up and kill each other because they still had the blood on them. But I guess that, I don't know, the writing I guess didn't allow for that. But I think that was probably one of the smartest things done in the horror movies. There, after the blood, sprayed each other with the blood, because I didn't think of that. And that's the kind of writing that I wish from the beginning. Give people, make the characters not stupid, and write the villains as a little smarter.
I agree. I think progressively throughout the movie, they definitely got like a lot more like smarter with their approach on how to handle the killers. The final scene, I loved it, as well, because going throughout the whole movie, I didn't think about that either. I just didn't like the characters needed to avoid getting that blood on them, but I didn't think about what the killers would do if they had that blood on them. So to see like kind of a battle royale. Yeah, like you don't see like a battle royale. Like the only time we ever seen killers fight like that is American Horror Story 1984, where we had the Night Stalker and I forgot the other killer's name, but they were fighting each other, and it was like, oh, and like maybe Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, that's
so to see like these killers that now at this point we've seen their backstory, what they were capable of. And seeing them fight each other, I was like, oh, like who is the ultimate killer out of all of these? And,
that shit was funny.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy.
It was good.
Just to be invested in the characters, and then once they started kind of like the killers, like, all right, let's go for it. I loved it. I thought the final scene was great. And kind of what you said, Home Alone, they had a solid plan and they executed it pretty well.
Yeah, I like the fact that, because whenever they do a plan, something always goes wrong. I don't think anything really went wrong with their plan, even when the gate locked. She got it down. I felt like the only thing that went wrong with their plan, which I feel like this was also a dumb decision, they should have left Samantha wherever the hell she was at, tied up, and then went to go do whatever they had to do. But I get it; something has to happen to drop the plot. But that was the only thing I thought was stupid about the final scene. But I really enjoyed. That was probably one of the most well-written final battles in recent time or whatever, because Exorcist movies is gonna have a large exorcism at the end, but I didn't know how they were gonna end this, and there was so much going on, but it was so cohesive that, and I enjoyed every second of it. So before we get out of here, I want you to give me a grade A through F on where you think the trilogy falls totally.
Overall, I would give the whole trilogy a B plus. I really loved it. And just kind of thinking like B plus. I would have an A minus, A plus being the highest. So there's definitely room for some improvements in some area. But overall, as a trilogy, I felt like they did a great job at laying the story and then wrapping it up as well with some good plot twists, with some really great kill scenes, action. We seen a lot of the characters, in these situations where it seemed like they had no hope and they were able to kind of pull it out at the end. But overall, what I look for in a horror movie, it had it, and I'm a big 80s buff, and like those cheesy, corny, slasher type of films and stuff like that, in a number of other horror movies. But overall, like I said, this is something that I could sit down and watch, and kind of what you said, what I expected scary stories to tell in the dark, this is what I wanted, and I loved it. And, I was happy it came to Netflix, so we all could just keep rewatching it as many times as we want. So I loved it. What about you?
Yeah, I have to agree. I was going to say A minus, but after hearing your points, I see why you would give it a B plus, and I kind of agree with that. There are some things that could have been done a little differently. I don't even want to say better. Things could have been done a little differently to kind of, make it a more believable, grounded in real, even though it's a witch story, but grounded in realism. That could have made it better, but I gotta say I give it a B plus just because of the overall storytelling. On top of that, it was scary. On top of that, we got gore. It checked a lot of boxes for me, so that's why I have to give it a B plus. There are a lot of movies that are the horror movies that you go and you leave feeling like, well, damn, what the hell did I, sit through or whatever. But I don't feel like I wasted a second of my time on this, and with the amount of stuff that I have to watch and review and talk about, discussing all of that, is I get really irritated when I waste my time on things that aren't good, and I feel like I didn't waste my time, so I can't complain about it. So I have to give this movie a solid B plus, definitely. So before we get out of here, where can we find you at on social media?
Yeah, great question. So on social media, you can find me on Instagram at Cody Banks. Follow me, I follow back. And just started the TikTok, Weird Kid from Shady Side. So, definitely follow me there, because this movie has definitely, kind of inspired me to, kind of do some little horror inspired TikToks and little funny comedic TikToks around Fear Street, because there's so many things that I enjoyed about this movie that, I just kind of want to soak in for a very long time.
Yeah. Cool. And you can follow me across all social media platforms at the Avatar RAJ. And you can make sure you follow the Silver Site across all social media platforms at the Silver Site. On Twitter, we are the Silver Site _. But all of these links will be down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. With that being said, we'll see you around later days.